Hi, this is Dave, and I just want a real quick update as we begin Unit 2. I know a couple of you have already gone on and done some work in Unit 2 because you were clearing the way for your spring break. So I'll try to draw you all back into watching this little update real quickly. I won't always do this at the beginning of each unit, but I frequently do just to kind of keep myself involved with you and to have some presence in the course. I'm really pleased with the work I've seen so far. Your writing seems to me to be superior. I like the detail you're using. You're following directions really well. You're answering all my prompts. There were some excellent initial posts in that discussion forum relative to my prompt about the two critical questions in Unit 1. From your posts, I think it's obvious that you're already getting tuned in to Knight's text and his style. Most students really like that bullet points that style that he uses. It becomes almost a summary within itself, which makes it easy for us to follow. It's not a hard read by any means, but I think it's real down to earth. It kind of fits into my philosophy in teaching this course because I did not want or ever intend this to be a technical course in instruction. So if that's what you thought you were getting when you signed up, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. We will talk about some specific elements of instruction as we go. We'll draw on some of the work from Hattie and from Marzano, but mostly this is a course for instructional leaders. And what I really want to do is challenge you to reflect a lot and really think about why you want to be an instructional leader and what it would look like for others if you did become one. That'll be the nature of my prompts as we go through the discussion boards, as we write the reflection essays, and so forth. I really enjoyed the pertinent passages that I've read so far. I have not seen them all yet as I make this little tape, but you're doing a good job with that. The book is so rich with not only what Knight writes, but the different quotes that he brings in from other authors. And you're doing a great job of pulling out those little gems. And it's amazing to me that we have 21 people, and yet the ones I've read are all unique. And I think that's really great. I hope after you make your post, you will go back and read what your classmates are writing, because it's just a great way to review that chapter of the text. I think the text is good enough to warrant that, so I encourage you to do it. Knight has already started talking a little bit about that one-page target, and you'll get to see exactly what that means and how he writes one very shortly as we approach Unit 3. I like Knight's 5 concepts of impact schools in this chapter 1 that we just finished. I think the fact that he includes humanity really sets him off from other authors about this topic. And I really like his organizational scheme, but I think more than that, I really like his humanity. One of the key passages in the chapter for me was when he refers to um, teachers as thinking workers and how that's different from workers in other environments, and how we have to approach that with some degree of sensitivity in order to be effective. I really like, in close union with that part of the chapter where he said, we don't do well with goals that others set for us. And he had a rather humorous example about the guy, setting a weight loss goal for his wife. How well would that go over usually? And I think we need to kind of carry that kind of thinking into our philosophy when we're working with teachers. I think you'll really like chapter 2 as you get into it. It's about partnering. It's the very basis of Knight's philosophy. In the on-campus version of this course this last fall, we brainstormed those two critical questions in class. And the discussion took well over an hour, and it could have gone on even more, but I had to finally cut it off. And they brought up all the same things that you did in your discussion board. How we are bombarded with lots of different kinds of tests and standards, how we've changed those. The public doesn't really understand the changes. We, in some ways, don't even understand the changes. There's lots of politics charging the whole Common Core curriculum question right now. There's question about whether we're going to stay with that. Um, You were astute to point out that in America we try to educate everyone. Other nations don't do that. Um, Talked about how the press seems to celebrate our failures but hardly make any mention of our successes. All of those things and more of the points you made are right on target. I could not begin to argue with any of those. But I don't think to this point anyway that anyone has brought up a factor that I think holds lots of opportunity for us to change that public perception. And that is leadership. I really believe that school leaders have to be experts in teaching and learning. Now, I know that'll cause some trepidation with a couple of you because you've already said, well, hey, I'm not a teacher. I don't even know how that's going to how that's going to work for me in instructional leadership. I don't know what kind of credibility I'm going to have. Well, I still think you can achieve that goal, but I think you're going to have to find ways to become experts in teaching and learning. Sadly, that's not always the reason that school leaders get hired. Sometimes they get hired because they're the best disciplinarians. Sometimes they get hired because they've been around the longest. Sometimes they get hired simply because they have the right credentials. There are lots of reasons school leaders get hired. Only some of them are the good reasons. Don't confuse knowledge of teaching and learning with knowledge of content. That's a mistake that a lot of high school teachers, for example, make. I hope you won't think through the course that I'm picking on high school teachers. I was one for a big part of my career. I worked with them for an even larger part of my career, and I love them. But I also know this about them. Sometimes high school teachers are more in tune with their content area than they are with actual teaching and learning. And we've made great strides, but we haven't quite crashed through that barrier. Um, I think it's important that you understand that being an expert in teaching and learning does not necessarily mean that you yourself are the best teacher in your building. I remember back when I was an elementary principal at Skyway and Cheyenne Mountain District many years ago, and it's kind of a long story how I got that position, but I actually moved from a high school assistant principalship to that position. I probably didn't deserve it. I was lucky to get the assignment. There were lots of better qualified candidates. So I'm not sure I really got it for the right reasons, is what I'm trying to tell you. But once I got in there, I fell in love with that job and I learned more in those years than I did in any other segment of my career. But I think one of the faculty meetings that was a kind of a turning point for us in a positive way is I was finding myself frustrated with not being able to motivate some teachers to try some new things. And I finally blurted out one day in a faculty meeting, I have been in all of your classrooms many times, and I'm pretty sure that I'm not the best teacher in this room. And you could kind of see the sense of relief come over their faces when they realized that I was going to show that kind of vulnerability. And I followed that up by saying, but I recognize great teaching when I see it. And I just have enough confidence in myself that I think I can help you become even better than you are. So I hope that you understand that that's the kind of leadership I think we're looking for is not just, hey, I'm really good, be like me, but I recognize good when I see it, and here's how I can help you get better. Model the learning. It's become the catchphrase now. When I first looked at this book 2 years ago, I think some people in the university thought it was kind of a radical book to choose for this course. Now it seems less radical. More and more people are talking about the concepts that Knight talks about in his book. We will hear him talk about the principal as first learner in the building. That phrase has really caught on. In fact, there's at least one school district that I know of in Colorado. I think it's the Eagle School District over on the Western Slope, where the superintendent actually has the title Superintendent and Chief Learner. That's pretty cool. I really like that. And as we progress through the book, you'll find out how important that is. Senate Bill 191 and other like legislation and policies are all well and good in that they have caused us to develop all these complicated rubrics. We have lots of rules and regulations about how many times we need to observe every teacher, how many times we need to write summatives of every teacher, dot, 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 dot. And I don't want to minimize it too much, but all of those kinds of laws always cause me to say, okay, that's fine, but you cannot legislate courage. And by that I mean that it doesn't matter what kind of policies, procedures, frequency requisites, all of those things you have. It still comes down to a leader going into a classroom, observing what is going on, and then giving honest feedback, purposeful, I should say, feedback to that teacher for the express purpose of improving the learning in that classroom. And if someone doesn't have the courage to do that, it doesn't matter how many times we require you to go in the classroom. So it's a little bit of a false hope that gets built by all those kinds of things. I'm not condemning it out of hand, but I'm saying it takes much more than that to cause real growth in a school. So I would add strengthen instructional leadership to the list of things that we can do to change that public perception that we read about and wrote about in Unit 1. So in summary, I'd just like to say keep up the great work as we move into Unit 2. I'm having fun getting to know you. It's obvious to me that we have a really talented group here who are serious about their work. And I think given that, we're going to have a good time together. Thanks.